Okay, guys, you asked for it. So you wanted me to explain why being a welder can be better than being a real estate agent. So right off the bat, there are a lot of different types of welders. If you're an underwater welder, those guys make between $150,000 to $300,000 a year. Pipeline welders make between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. And even if you're just a basic structural welder, those guys make between $60,000 and $90,000 per year. Now, when you compare that with the median real estate agent last year making $46,000 a year, it makes the decision really clear. So let's go ahead and talk about the money. So like I said, the median real estate agent made about $46,000. However, if we compare that just to a median structural welder, they make between $47,000 and $65,000 in the US. However, being a welder is an art form. So as these guys excel in their profession, they're going to move up the ladder into different types and different categories of welders, including what we talked about earlier. An underground welder can make upwards towards $300,000 a year. And with a welder, you're going to have a lot more consistent job security. Even if you're working for a company as a welder, usually they have unlimited overtime, while real estate agents earn commission only. So oftentimes the real estate agent, they're going to be working 50 hours a week. However, if there's no commission, then that week was just a time investment for potential future earnings. However, with a welder, if they're going to be working 50 hours for the week, generally it's going to be 40 hours their regular time, but that extra 10 hours of overtime is going to be time and a half. Also with welding, there are a lot of job opportunities in most markets throughout the US. In fact, a lot of pipeline welding contracts are going to pay between $1,000 and $2,000 per day. And those types of projects are going to run on for months and months. So there is quite a bit of job security. In fact, if we look back on the 2008 financial crisis, many of the real estate agents lost their job, lost their clients. However, welders continued to work throughout that time. So job security persists even in a down market and an increasing or booming market. Now, if we're talking about the time investment to become a welder, usually their certification programs are going to be between 6 months and 2 years. And then right out the gate, as an entry level welder, those guys are going to make between $18 and $22 an hour. Now, when you compare that with a real estate agent, they're not going to make anything for 18 months to sometimes 2 years while they're building up their client base. So usually a welder is going to start earning income much quicker than a real estate agent new into the industry. Also, if we consider a welder that joins the trade at 18 years old and they start making $55,000 right out the gate, by the time someone in their age bracket has graduated from college, they've already made $275,000, which is certainly going to compound over the lifespan of that individual, starting off with $275,000 more than the college graduate. Now, with welding certificates, welders can add on more and more certifications, and with each certification opens up more doors and higher wages and more contracts. So when you're a real estate agent, there's not really a direct equivalent to that. So sometimes real estate agents can be certified with senior houses, multifamily, things like that. It's going to open up different opportunities, but it's not a direct correlation into the amount of money they're going to make for that particular year. Okay, so we can go ahead and talk about the lifestyle and balance. So a lot of times if you're a welder working for industrial or manufacturing, your hours are going to be set. You're going to be able to know your schedule even before the week starts. There's not going to be any emergency signings at 9 o'clock on night or doing home showings on the weekend. So they're going to have a little bit more control and information on what their schedule is going to be like from week to week and month to month, as opposed to a real estate agent. You kind of work whenever the client tells you to work or whenever the closing is going to happen. So if you're somebody who likes a structure, welder is definitely going to be a better choice. Also, a side note, if you are a welder, when you're driving past bridges or buildings, you're creating something physical, something that's going to benefit the physical world, as opposed to being a real estate agent. Of course, you're going to be helping families out, but to have something physical to look at, physical to reference back in your career, welders have that they will be able to reference each time they go by. Also, another reason why you might want to be a welder as opposed to a real estate agent is because of the benefits packages. Oftentimes welders are part of a union. So when you're a real estate agent, you don't really get benefits like health benefits, death benefits, retirement contributions, because you are self-employed. You're basically your own company. As opposed to a welder, a lot of times those packages are included with their union membership. So it's going to be $15,000 to $25,000 a year in benefits. Also, when you are considering the stress levels, oftentimes real estate agents report they have high stress levels, high anxiety, and you compare that with their counterparts at the welding profession. Oftentimes they're going to describe their work as meditative, satisfying, almost as if they're doing art all day long. So moving on to the future of these two industries, just recently there was an infrastructure bill passed by the US where $1.2 trillion has been committed to roads, bridges, pipelines, and welders are going to play a big big part of all of those construction projects. Most, if not all of those projects will require some capacity of welding. In addition to that, a lot of cities are moving into green energy, and to install green energy, a lot of those projects are going to require welding. So that includes EV battery plants. It also includes hydrogen pipeline development. All of those welders are necessary for those projects. So you might be asking yourself, are robots going to take over welding? Well, the fact of the matter is there are robots that take care of repetitive welding in the manufacturing space. However, if the welding is going to be a lot more complex, that's not something that's easily duplicated by a robot. Now, when you compare that with a real estate agent, their industry is constantly under attack by companies like Zillow and Redfin to be replaced with AI. So as usual, this is not just to trash on real estate agents. In fact, some of the top performing real estate agents that are closing $50 million a year in business can easily make $500,000 to $1 million per year. And at that level of income, there's just not really a path to make that kind of money as a welder unless they're going to be business owners. Also, if you're somebody who likes person-to-person interactions, being a welder, you're basically autonomous. So if you crave human-to-human interactions, then real estate agent work might be for you because you're going to be constantly negotiating contracts with the public. So it's just a completely set of different type of skills. So there you have it. If you're thinking about being a welder, it's not just a side gig. It's a precision skill that helps build the physical infrastructure for humanity: bridges, pipelines, buildings, energy systems, machines. Welding is an important part to make all of that happen. Also, a lot of real estate agents leave their industry within a matter of 5 years. In fact, statistics say that 87% of real estate agents are no longer in the business after 5 years. When you compare that with a welder, once they've passed their certification, generally they're going to be a welder for the decades to come. So if you happen to be a welder and you're watching this video, drop your specialty below. Let us know how much you're making per year, and I'll see you on the next one.